Let's hit some anytime goal scorers as well as safe shots on goal for some of these goalies. Give me both teams to score in the first period. That's coming in at plus 185 compared to the over 1.5 that is at minus 120. Okay, you guys ready? Let's make some freaking money. It's time for Pocket with Joe. Happy Wednesday, everyone. It's time for a Pocket with Joe over here on YouTube. I'm Jo Madden. You can follow me on all social media at Jo Madden Sports. We've got 5 games on deck today after a very low scoring day across the league yesterday out there on the ice. We're looking at some games yesterday, and I could not believe what we were seeing. We did see a strong performance out of Boston and the New York Islanders. That was a shootout game. While we saw the Carolina Hurricanes be able to shut out the New York Rangers, getting that 3-0 win. We also saw Montreal and the Flyers shootout win for the Flyers. Utah beating Buffalo 2-1 in OT. The OT just continued to go on. And the most controversial game out there was the Minnesota Wild Nashville Predators going to overtime. Now, if you guys watched that game, that overtime goal by the Minnesota Wild was when the Preds goal was off track. Now, they're saying the goaltender did take the goal off, unleashing.
Something went wrong. Try again in a few seconds.
You guys hear that? My Google just said something went wrong. That's exactly what happened. Something did go wrong out there for the Nashville Predators as that net came off. And we saw the Wild just put the puck where the net should have been. And the refs, because of this rule, and the rule number is, I wrote down 63.7. If the goal would have gone in when the goaltender or a defensive player took that net off, that goal is counted. The ref can count it as a goal. So that's what we saw happen out there. But that second chance wouldn't have happened because it went wide. But let me know your thoughts on that one. That was crazy. Steven Stamkos talking about it after the fact, saying the second chance would not have been there if that net hadn't gone off. And I agree with Steven Stamkos. I think that game should have been played out further, but the Minnesota Wild closed it out 3-2. I love having these conversations about what we see out there on the ice, you guys. So if there's any game that you saw something happening out there, any fight that you watched where you're like, man, that was a good one, just let me know in the comments. I want to chat with you guys about that. The Dallas Stars to get the win over the Edmonton Oilers. That one went to a shootout as well, getting a 4-3 win. High-scoring game there. Colorado beating Tampa 3-2. Vegas, super low-scoring game, 1-0 over the Red Wings with 2 offenses that have been hot. The Anaheim Ducks, 7-3 versus the Florida Panthers. The Ducks were quacking, you guys. We got them as a plus 130, plus 140 dog yesterday. So the Ducks coming up big. And then the LA Kings keeping us under in the first period, not allowing Winnipeg to take that first period, but not allowing Winnipeg to get on the board at all. We did see the LA Kings win that 3-0. So we've got 5 games on deck. We're going to go over all of these games today, getting my best bets and props in all of these. When we look at that, we will do the recap at the end of the show. I am putting the bookmarks up now for YouTube, so make sure if you don't have time to hang around, you can come back and look for those bookmarks out there. We're going to talk all of this. So, Cody, it's nice to see you. I appreciate you popping in to say hi. Sheznikov just didn't come through. Yeah, Seth Jarvis was able to get that point for sure. Vinny, good morning. And good morning to each and every one of you. So let's jump into this. Let's look at these 5 games on deck today. It should be an interesting day out there on the ice. I do think we have a couple dogs. We have a couple players that are looking to hit some milestones, a couple players or one player that's coming home. We got an emotional game between Columbus and Calgary. The fan base is not forgetting about Johnny Gaudreau, and it upsets me as soon as I start talking about it. I know there's going to be something special there for him tonight. My mom's going to be at the game, so hopefully it is a good one between those 2 teams. And then we got Connor Bedard returning to Vancouver. It's never looked that pretty when Connor Bedard has returned to Vancouver. So he is on a 5-game point streak, though, scoreless for those goals in the last 3. We'll see what he's able to do in his return. Quinn Hughes did get back in the lineup for Vancouver on Monday night. So we got that kind of situation. We got the Washington Capitals on a losing streak right now, and they're looking to bounce back. So let's dive into these games. Again, you guys, let me know what you're liking out there on the ice. Can't wait to hear where you're going with your props, with your bets, and any of those parlays that you do have rolling. Now, the first game we're going to break down here is Utah. We've got the Utah Mammoth on a second night of a back-to-back, okay? So they're coming in on the second night of back-to-back. They did go to overtime versus the Sabres last night. Peterka, he wasn't able to get us those points on the board. I was looking at Peterka and Dorn versus their former teams, one from the Sabres, and then Utah here with Peterka. He wasn't able to get that goal, get any points on the board. So that did let us down. So they're on a second night of back-to-back off a 2-1 win. Low scoring game. It was weird out there versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, the Toronto Maple Leafs, Stallars expected between the pipes. And the last time we saw Toronto out there, they faced the Pittsburgh Penguins. That was on Monday night. They had a really slow start in the first period. The Penguins, I believe, it was 2-0. We did have the over 1.5, the over 2.5 goals in that first period, and both teams to score. So we went 1-3 in that first period. I was really annoyed with the Toronto Maple Leafs with that slow start because they did end up coming back and winning that one 4-3. So we look at this game here tonight. It should be Vanacek between the pipes for Utah versus Stallars here for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, looking at both of these teams, the defensive lapses have come out of Toronto, allowing 3.62 goals per game. We know the star power, the offense here. When this offense is clicking with William Nylander, Austin Matthews, this is a team, John Tavares, Matthew Knives, like the list goes on, that can light up the lamp. And so with Vanacek in between the pipes, he does have really decent numbers here. He's got a 2.00 goals against average and 913 save percentage. I feel like people are going to be running to the window with this one to the over. And let's just have a quick look at the odds, see where that juice is laying. So it's -108 to the over 6.5. It is -112 to the under. We're seeing Utah rolling in as that dog price at +128 and -154 here for the Toronto Maple Leafs. For me, looking at this one, I got to look at Utah to get off to a fast start, especially with what we've seen out of Toronto. Those first periods have killed them in a lot of these cases. And I do think you look at Toronto's schedule, and I know I don't want to take Utah for the full game because the second night of back-to-back, overtime last night, I could see them wearing out, and I could see Toronto's offense click at some point in this game. But I think Utah first period at +116 makes a lot of sense to me. But they could win and cover the alt puck line as well, because you look at the Leafs and you look at the schedule ahead of them. So they've won their last two. The Penguins on Monday, 4-3 and a comeback win. They do have the Bruins on deck on Saturday, the Carolina Hurricanes on Sunday, and then they're at the Bruins on Tuesdays. Those battles of the Atlantic with the Bruins on Tuesday as well as Saturday, those are big rivalry games, you guys. So we're going to see this team, I think, have the opportunity to lose here because of that look-ahead situation. Now, between now and Saturday, there is a lot of time. So you got Thursday, Friday still. They're staying at home. So maybe not so much, but that Sunday game versus the Carolina Hurricanes is going to be interesting to see what we're able to see out of the Leafs in that game at home before they go back to face the Bruins. I especially think if they lose that game to the Bruins on Saturday, they could lose another one to the Carolina Hurricanes on Sunday as they look ahead to that battle in the Atlantic on Tuesday. So something to note for this weekend for those bets. But I'm going to look at Utah first period. I think Utah first period is where you want to put your money. We're also seeing Toronto struggle to cover a puck line off a win. They're 0-7 in their last 7 games off a win to cover that puck line. So looking at the price right now, I can't get behind them at -154, and the trends go against them on that puck line laying 1.5. I do think a live betting opportunity could be in play if Utah does go up first, coming back on Toronto, and you're getting a better price on that money line, because they do have the ability to get the win here. I just don't like the money line price, and I think Utah first period is where I have to go with slow starts for Toronto. We have seen also Utah lose the last 5 as a dog versus the Atlantic, so not the best numbers. Now, Peterka has played strong on the second night of a back-to-back, so something definitely to note. He's recorded at least 1 assist in his last 4 games on the second night of a back-to-back. So Peterka, even though he didn't cash for his last game, He is your trend prop there. Logan Cooley has been solid out there on the road, scoring in 4 of his last 5 road games as a favorite. So they have come out nice and strong. Now, Clayton Keller did get that OT winner in the last game there for Utah. So if you're looking for him to continue to roll hot, 5 goals on the season, and Nick Schmaltz has been so hot out there. So those would be your playmakers I would look at. I do think this is probably a 4-2, 4, even 3-2 style game. I think this is a hard one to take to the over. I think we just stay under that 6.5. I think we hit 6. William Nylander, and it's hard because you look at all the playmakers out here for Toronto, and they are so solid. You got playmakers for Utah. You got a Utah team that still is averaging, 3.38 goals per game, 29.8 shots on goal. Stallars doesn't have great numbers, you guys, but I do think we're going to see a little bit more out of him. Like I said, Vanacek with those solid numbers. The defense of Toronto needs to give more support. But when you look at the playmakers for Toronto, because I always like to note them for you guys, William Nylander is first in assists on the team, 13 assists, 5 goals, so total of 18 points. We've got Austin Matthews with 7 goals, and then we got John Tavares, really strong out there on the power play, getting you those power play points. Really like what we've seen out of him. Okay, that's where we're going. I'm seeing your comment. Chicago plus 1,600 on 365. Okay, so we're going to get into that game. That is a very interesting game there because you got Connor Bedard returning to Vancouver. Connor Bedard in his returns to Vancouver. It's been crazy how we haven't been able to cash on him. So can Connor Bedard bring that energy into this one? Good morning, Vinny. I am on under 3. Under 3 for which game, which team are you looking at there? Yeah, Cody, it's going to be a super emotional game in the Dome tonight. Yeah, it's been over a year since the passing of Johnny Gaudreau, so it's going to be a hard one for sure. Nylander with at least 1 assist in 8 games in his last 10. Yeah, Nylander has been nice and solid. Nylander for the assist tonight. You're going to have to, I believe you have to lay a little bit of juice. I was looking at some player props for Nylander, and that's the problem. So his 1+ point is minus 240. Disgusting. But his assist is minus 111. I love the minus 111 numbers, you guys. I would look at that assist out there for William Nylander at the minus 111 mark. This should be an interesting matchup between these two. Okay, let's get to the next game. We're sitting here at the 12:48 minute mark. I'm trying to get these bookmarks done for you guys as well. The St. Louis Blues versus the Washington Capitals. Now, the Washington Capitals are having a hard time right now. But Logan Thompson between the pipes tonight. They're a minus 146 favorite, and I don't like that money line price. They're minus 1.5 on the puck line at plus 164. Can they come out and get a big win? I do think they have every opportunity of getting a big win. We got a total of 5.5 though. And I do think with the defensive mindedness here of both of these teams, I struggle to take this one to the over, which leads me to really struggling for the full game puck line here for the Washington Capitals. 3-1 though isn't out of the cards here for the Capitals to get the win. I think their defense is absolutely on point tonight. And I do think the St. Louis Blues come in here with that little bit of momentum with the win over the Edmonton Oilers. But you guys remember, we were rolling with the St. Louis Blues in that home game because Edmonton had the Dallas Stars on deck, and we were looking at kind of a sandwich spot there with the St. Louis Blues. Edmonton got up strong fast. Robert Thomas got back in the lineup, and then we saw the St. Louis Blues pull it out with the fall apart at the end of that game out of Edmonton defensively. So I do think this is a game where Binghamton between the pipes tonight for St. Louis is the wild factor out there. That's the wild card. We don't know how Binghamton's going to be because Binghamton this season, you guys, you look at his numbers and what the heck is he doing? He's got a 3.08 goals against average and an 868 save percentage. This is not the Jordan Binghamton that the St. Louis Blues need between the pipes. We need him to revert back to the Jordan Binghamton that we have seen over and over again, making those big saves, stopping those high danger shots by the opponents. Looking at this one, the Washington Capitals are limiting their opponents to 25.3 shots on goal. The St. Louis Blues are doing a good job at giving that support at 25.6. Their kill needs to come up better. That kill is only 0.6% there for the St. Louis Blues. We've got a 75% kill rate here for the Washington Capitals. Now, when we look at Logan Thompson between the pipes, he's got a 1.51 goals against average and a 935 save percentage. Versus the St. Louis Blues in his career, he's got fantastic numbers. The last 2 games only allowing 1 goal in each of those last 2 versus St. Louis, and he's gone 5-0-1 in 6 games with a 2.42 goals against average and a 906 save percentage. I do think Logan Thompson will show up. Logan Thompson is my solid in this game. And if he goes AWOL and loses this game for the Washington Capitals, well, I tell you, it's totally the wrong handicapping. But I do think I trust Logan Thompson out here between the pipes to be solid against a team that he's been solid versus, especially when we do see the Capitals giving him that support. Strong on the kill. They are best in the league at limiting those goals and shots on goal. They're only allowing 2.33 goals per game versus Binghamton. So where do I go when I trust one goaltender and not the other? I've got to look at St. Louis's team total, because if this ends up being an empty netter, this is a 3-2 style game, and we get the empty netter out of the Washington Capitals, 4-2 pushes us over the 5.5. If this is a 3-1 style game and still St. Louis pulls their goaltender, then we're going to be frustrated when we see that other empty netter pushing us over. So St. Louis's team total under 2.5. It's coming in at plus 106. I don't see them getting 3 goals in this game. They're only averaging 2.85. And like I said, the defense here of the Capitals, especially, they've lost their last 4 and they're searching for a win. The first night of a back-to-back with the Pittsburgh Penguins tomorrow on deck. That's a battle of the Metro. So a huge game on deck tomorrow. But if we hadn't seen them losing the last 4, I would be looking at, okay, there's too big of a game tomorrow that maybe this is an opportunity for St. Louis to continue to roll against a team, but not losing their last 4. They need this win tonight. So I'm looking for St. Louis's team total under 2.5. Now, is that saying that St. Louis can't win? No, this could be a 2-1 game if Washington continues to struggle out there. If Binghamton stands on his head, we could see a 2-1 game. Either way, I think St. Louis loses or stays under the 2.5 goals. The Capitals, though, I think first period is where I want to go with their puck line. First period puck line for the Capitals. You guys know this has made us money this season. Laying a half a goal plus 154. I love that plus money, you guys. And I do think it is a nice way. Now, we have seen the Capitals win and cover that puck line in their last 5 games following OT. That last loss was to the Buffalo Sabres in OT on Saturday, 4-3. I don't weigh much stock into that trend here. It's Saturday, it's Wednesday. They've had plenty of rest. This team needs to frickin' just get a win. When we look at the playmakers out here, Tom Wilson for the Washington Capitals, he has 13 points, 6 goals, 7 assists. You got Dylan Strome with 11 points, 3 goals, and adding 8 assists. So those are your playmakers. We know Ovi has been nice and solid out there as well. I never count out Ovi. We know he's racing for records there. On the other side, Robert Thomas, great to have him back in the lineup for the St. Louis Blues. He has 8 points this season, 2 goals and 6 assists in the last 9 games. And then Jordan Kyrou has been nice and solid, 4 goals and 4 assists in 13 games for him. So those are your playmakers. I wouldn't play around a lot with anytime goals in this one. I would look at some player points. And I do think Ovi forgot how to score. Yeah, he's forgotten how to score. That pressure of him coming for those records, you guys, I think is real. I would look at John Carlson, Tom Wilson, Dylan Strome, and Ovi. I do think they'll be impactful, but parlay their player points in this one. You guys, it is great to see you all here. Yeah, William Nylander has been playing great this season. Great to see him in the lineup the other night. There was question marks around his health. He is looking nice and solid out there. So good morning to each and every one of you. And hell yeah, let's make some freaking money. That is for sure. Okay, we got to move on. We got to talk about this emotional game here. It is between the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Calgary Flames. Now, this one definitely, it's going to be a tearjerker there in the Dome. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Johnny Gaudreau was drafted, played for Calgary forever, and then left to play with the Columbus Blue Jackets. And we all know the tragic loss of Johnny Gaudreau, completely rocking the hockey world. Columbus coming back here. It's been over a year since the passing of Johnny Gaudreau, but I tell you, it's still an emotional thing for all of the fans, all of these players out here. You have some of his best friends between the two teams playing against each other. And you got Shea Monahan from the Columbus Blue Jackets, one of his best guys out there, returning here to Calgary where they played together for so many years. And you can tell I'm getting emotional. So let's not even talk about it anymore. Let's start talking the lines here. I do think you look at some of these players, some of the storylines. Nazem Kadri playing his 1,000th game, you guys. It's going to be an emotional night in Calgary. So the Calgary Flames are the favorite at -120. And if you're saying, why the hell are the Calgary Flames the favorite? I don't blame you. You look at the Calgary Flames record, you guys. They are 3-9-2 on the season, 1-3-1 at home. This team is the worst in the league. It pains me to say they're averaging 2.14 goals per game. Their power play converting at 13.5%. So a little bit better than the Leafs. Have to get that dig in there. They're averaging 28 shots on goal per game. When you look at the Columbus Blue Jackets, this offense is really firing. They're averaging 31.9 shots on goal, third best in the league, 16.7 for that power play. So still not a fantastic power play out of them either. And they've got a weak kill at 66.7%, but they are averaging 3.25 goals per game. Allowing those three, though, and allowing the most shots on goal. So the defense really needs to give Jet Greaves more protection out there. Jet Greaves coming in with a .916 save percentage and 2.67 goals against average. Dustin Wolf. So Calgary basically almost was like this close to playoffs last year, but we didn't see it happen. The St. Louis Blues were able to move through instead of the Calgary Flames because of more regulation wins. Dustin Wolf looked fantastic last season. He's come back down to earth. He's got a 3.39 goals against average at .884 save percentage. This offense isn't doing what we expected for Calgary either. So Calgary just having those struggles. 8 points only on the season. Yeah, 8 points for the Calgary Flames. If this was the first 2 weeks, that would be great, but we are not at that point. They finished with 96 points last season and just missed the playoffs. And this is what we're looking at right now. This is definitely a rebuild season for the Calgary Flames. This is their first game at home off of 4 on the road. You know that's a fade spot, right? And the books still have Calgary at a -120 favorite. Now, they did have a bad road trip. They went 1-3 on that road trip. One of their games versus the Senators, though, they did have a shootout win. They're off the win versus the Flyers 2-1 on a Sunday as well. So this team is rested here. Now, when we look at the Columbus Blue Jackets, they're off the loss to the Islanders on Sunday on the road, 3-2 loss. Game 2 of a 5-game Pacific road trip. The Pacific road trips are hard for these teams. So this is game 2. They next face Vancouver, the Oilers, on Monday. So Vancouver on Saturday, the Oilers on Monday, the Kraken on Tuesday, and then home versus the Oilers on Thursday. This is a hard stretch for them with the travel. It seems like, Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver are so close, but as soon as you fly out to Vancouver, you've got a time change there. Edmonton and Calgary, it's a quick bus ride or a plane trip, 45 an hour on the plane, 3.5 hours on the bus. Pretty sure they're going to fly up there. But, you look at that and it's a hard one for them. Now, when we look at Calgary, they did beat Columbus last December. It was 3-0 win. But Columbus has won 4 of the last 6 meetings. So looking at this one, I do think with how physical Calgary is out there, they're actually more physical than the Columbus Blue Jackets, which is a hard thing to beat. So I'm looking for a back and forth battle between these two. I don't want to take a side. I can't get behind Calgary at that price, -120, but I do think they stay competitive. And I do think this is an emotional one. And I think you got to look at some of the storylines here. I do like Monahan versus his former team. And I do think he can come in nice and strong. I'm going to look at Monahan I want to look at him for the point, but it's -160. I'm going to look at Monahan for the anytime goal. And then I'm going to look at Kadri. I got to look at Kadri for the Calgary Flames. This is going to play around with a couple other players for Columbus, but I don't want to look at that much in this game. I just think this is a really hard game to know where those emotions are going to be at. I could see Calgary getting the win for Johnny, and I could see Columbus getting the win for Johnny. I think both of these teams really have this game circled out there. Could it be that high-scoring game with Calgary's offense waking up? It absolutely could be, and I would prefer to take the over in this game than the under. Jet Greaves will take those shots from Calgary, and you look at Nazem Kadri coming in here. on his 1000th game. And I do think he stands nice and tall. We know Kadri at home is where he has excelled over the season. So looking at Kadri for the anytime goal, it's plus 160. 2+ points for Kadri at plus 255. I love the 2+ points over the goal. But I do think if you're looking at Kadri and you're looking at the 1000th game and how much it means to these players to play that game number 1000, you got to kind of ladder those goals up. So I'll take him for the 2+ points at plus 255, but then I'll take him for the goal at plus 160 for a third of a unit, the 2 goals at plus 1200, and the Hattie at plus 6500. It's just a feeling, you guys. It's a long shot looking at him, but a third of a unit on each, I do think, is a solid way to go. When it's such an emotional game and also his 1000th game, you can see that storyline playing out that way. And I do think in betting, you got to look at some fun storylines in some games, especially when it's such a hard game out here. Monahan for the anytime goal and 2+ points for Monahan. Now, there is a young player who's going to get his first start here for the Columbus Blue Jackets. That is Dyson Mayo. He was recalled from the Cleveland Monsters last week, so he will be getting a start here. We'll see what he's able to bring to the table, but I think it's going to be I think this game ends up being a fun game. I think the Gaudreau family will be in attendance here as well. I like where you're going, placing 1 unit on Utah at plus 130. I think Utah has every ability to get that win. That's going to be a great game there. Yeah, number 13 forever. That is for sure. Good morning, Kev. Thank you for being here with us today. Okay, let's move on to the next game. We got to talk Connor Bedard. We got to talk Connor Bedard's return to Vancouver. It hasn't been great in those returns. So the very first year, his rookie year, the first game coming back to Vancouver, he was injured. And so we didn't see him play. And then we've seen last season, he wasn't able to get those points on the board. Now he's on a 5-game point streak, but scoreless, no goals in the last 3. We'll see what he can do here versus Demko and the Vancouver Canucks. Spencer Knight between the pipes here for the Chicago Blackhawks. So when we look at the lines on this one, plus 138 for Chicago, Vancouver minus 166, total of 5.5. It's minus 134 to the over 5.5. And I know a lot of you might be looking at this under because these matchups have gone under the total in, I think, 3 of the last 5. So we have seen like lower scoring games. I can't get there, especially at a 5.5. I think the over 5.5 is where you want to play. It's juicy though at minus 138. I'm looking for both of these teams to be able to put up their share of the goals. So that means we need to see something out of Chicago. Chicago has a team total of 2.5, and I'm willing to take that to the over. They're over 2.5 goals coming in at minus 122. I do think this team has been playing nicely offensively, averaging 3 goals per game. 25.2 only shots on goal. The power play converting at 17.5%. But we do see Vancouver home off a 3-game road trip. They had an overtime win versus the Preds on Monday, 5-4. And I do think we'll see some tired legs in this one out of Vancouver. Vancouver's allowing 30.1 shots on goal per game, and their kills only 69.4%. So with tired legs, with this defensive lapses here of the Vancouver Canucks, who do allow 3.21 goals per game, I think we're going to see a Chicago team really bring it, be able to make those rushes through the neutral zone into Vancouver zone and put that pressure on Demko. If they can get those second chance scoring opportunities, then I do think they have every ability to win. Now they have a much stronger kill than the Vancouver Canucks as well. They got an 80.6% kill. And then I just think, you look at the losses they had. So they're off the win versus the Kraken 3-1. Off the loss to the Kraken 3-1. They also had those games versus Winnipeg, Edmonton, Seattle. They stayed competitive versus Winnipeg and Edmonton. They're just playing with their heart. And this team is 10-3 on that puck line. I think they have every ability to come in here and really give it to Vancouver. It is their inconsistencies out there in some of these neutral zone. When they're in the neutral zone, sometimes you see them have those lapses on the defensive side of things where you should see them being able to make those stops. And it looks like the skater just skates past some of their defenders so easy out there. And it's got to be frustrating for Chicago because it's so frustrating as a fan watching what happens out there. This is game 4 of a 6-game road trip, you guys. The Flames on Friday and the Red Wings on Sunday. So it's not a great scheduling spot for them. but it's not a great scheduling spot at all for Vancouver. 2 of 3 went to overtime out there on the road. So I don't love it coming here off the overtime on Monday, but 2 of the 3 on the road did go to OT. I do think, even though they were able to get the win last time 3-2, that was just in the middle of October, you guys. That one went to shootout in Chicago. That was a 3-2 win for Vancouver. I think this one has every ability of being just as tight, but I think we could see Chicago get the win. If Chicago's to get the win, they got to score 3 goals. So I'll take their team total over 2.5 goals. The more and more I talk this out, the more and more I love them on the money line at plus 138. The problem with that money line price is I want more. And you guys know I'm greedy there when I'm looking at a dog. If we see Vancouver go up first, we're going to see that line inflate. We're going to get Chicago at a much better price, and that's where I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait on that money line. If I lose the best of the money line, then I lose the best of the money line. Like if I'm not able to get it at a better price than plus 138, I'm not going to bet it. But if you bet it beforehand, you could see it, but I'm not going to take it until I'm getting like a plus 180 kind of mark for Chicago. I think it's the best way to go. So you do have Connor Bedard coming home, like we talked about. Can he finally have a big night here in Vancouver? We know he brings his friends, he brings his family in. That pressure really hasn't worked in his favor playing back here in Vancouver. But I do think this is one where you got to start looking at Bedard. He has 10 assists and 16 points, so 6 goals. He's on a 5-game point streak, scoreless in the last 3. I'll take Connor Bedard for the goal and 2+ points. I do think he's impactful in this one. He wasn't able to get any points on the board on October 17th. They say looking for revenge. He's always looking for revenge here in Vancouver because this is a place he's really struggled. Ryan Donato has been solid out there as well. I like Teravainen. So I do think there's a couple of playmakers to look at for Chicago. 2+ points for Bedard. Let's go big on Bedard tonight. That's at least where I'm going to go. We've got Quinn Hughes back in the lineup. We know he came back here on Monday, was so impactful for them when they were out versus the Predators. Connor Garland has been strong for Vancouver as well. Sherwood has been light in the net. Sherwood's been great at getting those goals. Evander Kane has got on the scoreboard. He has 2 goals. We're getting great value with Evander Kane. Might be worth a sprinkle. And then we got Brock Besser coming off a 3-point performance. So he should be strong as well. So those are your playmakers. We'll build a long shot parlay. You guys know we will do that before the end of this show. He is cooling off a little bit, but I still think he is so hot. Bedard and Pettersson, anytime goals. I like players that are due. I hate the word due, but I do like due players. That is for sure. NHL placing 1 unit on Utah. I love it. You guys, let's get to this last game. We have the San Jose Sharks. The San Jose Sharks versus the Seattle Kraken. I know. I'm not a big buyer on the Kraken. I always like to bet against them, but can you really bet against them in this situation? You can not take them on the money line. That's gross, minus 166. The puck line laying 1.5 is a lot to ask. We do look at a Sharks team that's 3-1-1 in their last 5 games. So they're not playing bad right now. We've got offense here for the Sharks. And it's interesting. They've got defensive lapses, but they're in like the top 10 of the league for those block shots. So their defense needs to find a way to come together right now. So to get things done, now I have that song in my head, you guys, but they need to come together and they need to be able to lock down. Against a Seattle Kraken team, this could be a possibility for this defense to actually start getting things clicking out there. We know Jared McCann not in the lineup for the Seattle Kraken. Total of 6.5 minus 128 to the under. I can't touch over 6.5 at plus 104. How much can they come together is the question mark. Could this be a 4-3 win for one of these teams? It could be. So I'm really hesitant on that total. I have the faith in the playmakers out there for the San Jose Sharks. They're going to get things working, but not right now. We do look at the backup goaltender in, and this is where I'm going to go, because with the backup goaltender in, not Novakovic in, with Aslarov in, I just can't back them. He's got a 4.29 goals against average and an 67 save percentage. Joey Decord on the other side, having a solid season, 2.53 goals against average and a 910 save percentage. The Seattle Kraken are undefeated at home. 4-0-2 at home on the season. 6-0 against the spread at home as well. This team comes out nice and solid at home. They're averaging 2.75 goals per game, only 23.9 shots on goal. So we're going to see the Sharks defense step up in a way where they're going to try to limit those shots. This team is still allowing 31.6, but Seattle's not taking a ton of shots. They are playing around with the puck. They're making things look pretty out there, and we're seeing limited shots on net because of that. The power play here for Seattle is 23.5%. Their kills coming in at 71%. The defensive lapses, if the Sharks can get that under control, we could see a 3-2. I just don't see it with a backup goaltender, you guys. I think what we see in this one is the defense still allowing some bad mistakes out there for the San Jose Sharks. The Seattle Kraken, they're off the win versus Chicago on Monday, 3-1. They are at the St. Louis Blues on Saturday, at the Stars on Sunday. They got a back-to-back on the weekend that is going to be hard for them out there on the road. But it's Wednesday here, and I don't think they look past the Sharks that much. The Sharks are on a one-game road game here. They're versus the Jets at home on Friday. So they've shown strength on the offensive side of things for the Sharks. So they got a 3.23 goals on average and 25.1 shots on goal. That power play is converting at 20.5%. It's good to see Seattle, though, at home being undefeated so far, because this is a team that's had years of inconsistencies at home, unable to get those wins. But I got to go with what we've seen out of the Sharks. I want to say this team can lock it down defensively, finally have a strong performance against a Seattle team that really plays around with the puck too much, doesn't take a lot of shots. But I just think we're still going to see those shots go in because of the backup goaltender here for the San Jose Sharks and the amount of defensive issues that we have seen out of the Sharks. I'll take the over 6.5. Don't absolutely love it in this game, but you look at Macklin Celebrini, and he's been so solid out there for the Sharks. You got Chandler Stevenson, who has had that strength versus the Sharks. He's been able to get a goal in the last 3 versus the Sharks. So that's where I'd look for Seattle. When you're looking at the Sharks, it's got to be Macklin Celebrini, 18.7 goals, 11 assists. I would look at Celebrini to Foley to come out nice and strong. But man, this game is going to be an interesting one to see what the Sharks are able to do. I understand the Kraken laying 1.5. They have been strong at home, 6-0 on the puck line. At home, 4-0-2 straight up. So this is a team that has every ability to win it by 2 goals. I don't like the road on the weekend for that puck line, but -1.5, if you guys are rolling there, is coming in at +148 for the Seattle Kraken. It has every ability to hit for sure. Kadri, game number 1,000. Take him for the goal. 2+ points, my favorite bet, but I'm going to go goal, 2 goals, Hattie, all a third of a unit for Nazem Kadri. It's going to be a great game, emotional game there with Columbus rolling into Calgary. So very emotional game. But that's it, you guys. We talked out all 5 of these games. It's recap time. And we're moving on faster each and every single day. So thank you, guys. Let's jump into the recap. We can talk some player props. We'll build a player prop parlay as well. So recap time. I'm just trying to get these bookmarks up. 39-minute mark. Okay. Recap time. You guys ready? You got your pens? You got your pencils? Who writes this down when I do these recaps and fly through it, or do you just listen and take note? Let me know what you're doing. I'm a big pen to paper person. I need my pen and paper whenever I'm listening to someone. Okay. Utah versus Toronto. Give me Utah first period money line at +116. I do think that they have every ability off the second night of back-to-back to come in strong to start this game. Toronto's got off to some slow starts. Even though they could come back here and get the win, I do think Utah in the first period on the money line is where you want to be. Player props in this one. Peterka has been solid on that second night of a back-to-back. Logan Cooley, Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz are your playmakers for those points. William Nylander for Toronto, Austin Matthews, and John Tavares, especially on the power play for Tavares. I do think if the money line drops if Utah goes up first. I would look at Toronto coming back in on them, but Utah has every ability of getting the win. If you like Toronto, wait for Utah to score first. Wait for that live number. I'm going to stay off a live bet in this one, but I could see it playing out that way. We know Toronto has been able to come back from deficits. The St. Louis Blues and the Washington Capitals. This one I do think is all about the defense and Logan Thompson for the Washington Capitals. I'll take the St. Louis Blues team total under 2.5 coming in at plus 106. But I do think we got to play on again because it's cash for us. The Washington Capitals first period puck line laying a half a goal at plus 154. Your playmakers for the Capitals are John Carlson, Tom Wilson, Dylan Strome, Ovechkin. Your playmakers for the St. Louis Blues are Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas is where I would go. Again, not taking any player props in that one. I think it is a defensive battle. I would look at Logan Thompson's save shots on goal to the over, though, because he's only allowed 1 goal in the last 2 matchups versus St. Louis. 1 in each. The Columbus Blue Jackets versus the Calgary Flames. This one I can't get behind a side. You guys, I do think I lean towards the over in the game. This is an emotional one here. You have some of Johnny Gaudreau's best friends playing against each other. I'm going to look at Monahan coming back into Calgary to be able to get that anytime goal tonight. You're getting that right around that plus 160 mark. I'm then going to look at Kadri in his game 1000 out here for the goal at plus 160. 2+ goals at plus 1,200 and the hat trick at plus 6,500. I'm going to put a third of a unit on each. It's a long shot bet with that ladder up there, but I do think it has every ability to cash. 2+ points though for Kadri is my best bet for Kadri. I'll put a full unit on that. 2+ points at plus 255. The Chicago Blackhawks and the Vancouver Canucks. I got to roll with Connor Bedard for 2+ points in this one. I like Chicago's team total over 2.5 goals at minus 122. We know Connor Bedard hasn't been great coming back into Vancouver, but I do think in this matchup here, he's been so hot as of late. He hasn't scored a goal in the last 3, but he does have 5 points over, or he's on a 5-game point streak. So I do think he has every ability to come out nice and strong. He has 10 assists and 6 goals thus far on the season. You look at Ryan Donato as well and Tara Vinen out there for Chicago. I do think this one goes over that total, but I will isolate Chicago's team total over 2.5. I'm just getting a better line at minus 122. You're going to have to lay more juice to the over 5.5. Quinn Hughes, Connor Garland, Evander Kane. I think Evander Kane's sneaky for a goal tonight, and Brock Besser to stay hot. I think we see some goals in this matchup. And then the San Jose Sharks versus the Seattle Kraken, you guys. I do think there's too many issues on the defensive side of things for this one to stay under the total. I think the best bet is taking this one over 6.5. Even though I want to see the Sharks start to right the ship. They are getting those block shots. They're in the top 10 in block shots, but they've got a backup goaltender in tonight. So I can't trust the Sharks to keep this one under. I won't be shocked though. This is a 4-3 win for the Kraken. Kraken undefeated at home. Could it be a 4-2 and we stay under? It could be. So if you just want to look at the Kraken's team total, I don't blame you, but I think the Sharks can put up 3 and help us with that total to the over. That is the recap, you guys. You just replay it. That makes sense. Just keep replaying it. Appreciate you guys for joining me here. Let's do a player prop parlay. You guys, I like the player prop parlays. They are always fun. And let me know if the bookmarks are helping you guys as well. I do like to get those bookmarks out to you guys. The player point parlay, when we look at Toronto versus Utah, I do think these guys are so highly juiced. It's really hard to look at these player point parlays, but Nick Smoltz has been so solid for Utah. I will throw him in there. Let me just remove that under 1.5. And then we know Nylander has been firing. I will take John Tavares. So he's been able to get us those power play points, and I do think he comes in strong. So between Toronto and Utah, I'll look at Nick Smoltz, and this is for the long shot parlay. If you take these guys just for the point, you're almost at 2-1, so it's not worth it. But Nick Smoltz here for Utah, and then John Tavares for Toronto. If you just take the two of them together, it's plus 137, and I do think they have every ability for this game for us to be able to get those points. and cashes that. So if you just take the two of them, it's plus 137. I'm going to stay with the St. Louis Blues and the Washington Capitals. Again, I think defense is in play. I will look at the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Calgary Flames because I do think Monahan and Kadri have big games. So looking at the points, Kadri's minus 186, willing to throw him in game number 1,000 into our long shot. Monahan coming in at minus 148. Marchenko has been so solid for the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think if you're doing like a Columbus Blue Jackets parlay, I would look at Marchenko and Sean Monahan. And then you could look at Kadri as well, thrown in from Calgary. So if you do those three legs, so we're going to build a couple different things here. If you do Kadri, Monahan, and Marchenko, so that's Kadri from Calgary in game number 1,000, Monahan and Marchenko from the Columbus Blue Jackets, parlay all three of them for a point. It's coming in at plus 223. I think that's a solid way to go. I'm going to leave Marchenko out of this, but if you wanted to add him in a three-leg parlay in the same game, I would go there. So it is Nazem Kadri officially for my long shot and Monahan for those points. If you just take the two of them, it's plus 149, but we're throwing this into a long shot, you guys. Chicago versus Vancouver. I think we're going to get the goals in this one as well. Look at those player points. We got to throw Connor Bedard in there. I think he is in for a big day in this one. And I can't deny what Brock Besser has been able to do out there on the ice. He was so great in that last game. Sherwood out, though, for the point is minus 132. That's a hard call between Brock Besser and Sherwood. Sherwood, yes, has maybe slowed off a little bit, but I'll look at Brock Besser to bring that energy from that last game. He was solid out there. So if you just look at a two-legger in this game for those player points, Connor Bedard and Brock Besser coming in at plus 131. It is a solid way to go. But like I said, we're building this a long shot out there. Then the San Jose Sharks and the Seattle Kraken. When we look at those players, when we look at the points, you got to throw in Macklin Celebrini. He's been way too hot for the San Jose Sharks. It is juicy, but I do think he gets there. And then Chandler Stevenson, like I said, he's been able to score versus the Sharks. Definitely the playmaker you want to look at for the Seattle Kraken to step up. So when you just take Macklin Celebrini and Chandler Stevenson, it's plus 150 for both of them to get a point. But we got an 8-legger long shot here, you guys. And we're searching for that plus money. $10 pays $334.22. So $1 would pay you back $33 if your book can just take that $1 bet. Okay, this is where you're going to have to hit replay. I'm going to timestamp. I try to timestamp the bookmarks or the recap after we've gone through all of those so people don't have to hear me talking it out. So bookmark for the recap. You guys ready? The long shot Madden parlay today is John Tavares for a point for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Nick Schmaltz for a point for the Utah Mammoth. We then will go to Nazem Kadri for the point for the Calgary Flames in game 1,000, Sean Monahan for the point for the Columbus Blue Jackets versus his former team. Macklin Celebrini of the San Jose Sharks for a point, and then Chandler Stevenson of the Seattle Kraken for a point. We'll then turn to Connor Bedard to get a point on the board in his return to Vancouver here. Please, Connor Bedard, show up in Vancouver for that point. And then Brock Besser coming out from a really strong game for Vancouver to get a point. 8 legs, you guys, plus 3,324, plus 3,342. $10 returns $334 and change. Again, 8-leg parlay. We'll go over it one more time. Each player for a point. John Tavares of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Nick Schmaltz of the Utah Mammoth, Nazem Kadri of the Calgary Flames, Monahan of the Columbus Blue Jackets, Macklin Celebrini of the San Jose Sharks, and Chandler Stevenson of the Seattle Kraken, Connor Bedard of the Chicago Blackhawks, and Brock Besser of the Vancouver Canucks. Each of those players for a point tonight. $10 will return $334 and change. So this is a plus 3342 parlay. Madden long shot parlay, you guys. Let me know which leg of this parlay is going to kill it. Is Connor Bedard on his 5-game point streak going to fall flat again in Vancouver? It absolutely could. And those odds are going up, plus 3408 now on this 3-leg parlay. So $340 return currently. You guys, let me know which leg you think will struggle out there to cash. Let me know from this 8-leg parlay what 3 legs you like the best. Drop that live in the comments, you guys. I'm going to tail those 3-leg parlays that you like below. Let me know the 3 best players for the point. We'll get still plus money with the 3 best players. So let me know. I feel like it's going to hit tonight. I think it's really solid as well. So you guys, let's make some freaking money. I love having you guys here joining me every day to talk some hockey. Again, let me know if you're just joining here at the end of the show, what you thought of the Wild's goal last night. If they deserve to get the win over the Predators in OT, the knocked off goal, lots of controversy around that. Again, that is rule 63.7 in the NHL rule book. If the goaltender knocks the goal off on purpose, play wasn't called dead because the scoring opportunity was still there. I think it went too far out that the second chance wouldn't have been there, but if the goaltender knocked it off, he knocked it off. Steven Stamkos not too happy about it for the Preds, but of course he took the loss. Lots of controversy around that win for the Minnesota Wild. And if that comes down to playoffs, that implication, man, I tell you, there's going to be much controversy for the season to come. But per the rules, if the player was in a scoring opportunity and the goaltender knocked it off on purpose, it's counted as a goal. You guys, all the best in all of your bets. Again, thanks for joining me here on Puck It with Joe for November 5th. I appreciate each and every single one of you. If you could hit that like button, hit the notification bell as well, and drop below the 3 players that you like best for their points tonight. I'm going to jump in on those parlays. Come on, you guys. Share the wealth. Let's make some freaking money together. I will see you next time. I appreciate each and every single one of you. Have a great day. And I love